Hello, myself Ramakrishna. Here basically we are talking about the cities creation. In this basically we are talking about one topic, that is lava creation. In lava creation basically we are talking that how basically things are basically getting created. Buildings basically are getting created. How basically the one of the person told that basically if we stop doing the construction basically building basically, then world will end. Then one of the universe person told that yes, world will end basically. So how basically he might be telling that basically? Reason he told that basically your production basically is getting stopped. Production means your population basically. Then he told that no basically. Then how you can stop the construction basically? Because construction equal to next level future creation basically. For example, child is basically going. Child has happened, so that child basically is going to become to one age basically, right? And he is going to get marriage. So for that basically the energy basically preparation basically is done basically. So that basically he can do the marriage and then basically he can have his child basically. So for that basically how from where basically you are going to get the energies and each and everything basically. For that basically the construction data basically are required basically. So this was the answer basically. So you can just imagine basically each and every things how things are basically connected. Same way the human needs basically. Human needs are also basically connected same way also. Same way human needs are basically connected. For example, one person told that previously there was no software and human needs. Nowadays basically the software human needs also basically came. Previously only artificial sorry natural apple basically was there, but nowadays chemical apple is there, and the software chemical apple is also basically the software, that means software creation apple basically. So this apple created from the softwares basically. So like this basically also data are there, so that all data basically need to add here basically. That basically by default when the apple everything was basically created go on creation basically, that time only the process basically might have started long before basically, and everything basically might be created. But the thing basically which was not created mostly basically, that was this basically. This mostly basically might not be created, and this might create problem, might create not problem also basically. Because if you are telling that basically it's not going to create problem, then basically one of the person basically asked the question basically, that was why basically you created this many holes. Then he was basically told, yeah, then after this basically question basically he told that okay basically we will create one more hole basically for the specially for the software industry basically. So you can just imagine basically each and everything basically, if you know basically, if you know the things basically, then only basically you can do the argument basically. And argument basically is must basically in the software industry basically. If you are not doing argument basically with your managers, with your project managers, with your team leaders, with your this that CEOs, vice president, that means you are going to be in trouble basically in one day basically. If that person basically might not have told that basically, might not have asked that basically, this 2 lakh holes basically why you have created basically. You are telling that basically software hole is not required basically, then why you created 2 lakh hole. After that basically he told that what this, that he will create the one more hole basically for software industry. So one of the person asked the question basically, in each and every field basically you basically work for the each and for example you are working in the mall industry, if you are working in the software industry, if you are working in the accounts industry, if you are working in the medicine industry, means studying basically and working basically both basically, any basically industry, construction industry, construction equal to text box equal to 1000 cities created. Like this basically if you are not doing the argument basically, then basically you might get into trouble of the future basically. So that is basically he told that basically okay we will create one more lava holes basically. After that argument only basically he told na basically. Lots of people say that ये तू यार argument बहुत करता है, you ask lots of questions basically. So this basically after asking question basically this only number came na basically. After asking the question only this number came basically, and software industry got their different hole basically. Software industry basically got different holes basically. So this thing basically which I have written here basically, that's for software industry plus each and every industry basically which are basically dependent on the lava data basically. So lava data basically are created and it's recycled basically. Recycle process basically happens, and in this recycle process basically 2 lakh lava holes basically are there, which keeps on creating the land. Why basically it keeps on creating the land? Because your birth is always happening, no, basically. The men basically do the marriage, then basically he gets the child, then his process starts like this. Basically he is going to stay to certain area like this. Basically the process is this process basically stops. One of the person told them no, basically this process basically has never stopped. So lava creation process also is not going to stop, and this basically is also not going to stop basically. So this basically is also not going to stop basically. So like this basically creations basically are there basically. So you can just imagine basically. So like this basically creations basically are there basically. So one of the person told that basically, in this world basically how many blood groups are basically there? Then he told that basically 22 blood groups, all basically can have the next birth basically. Then he told that yes, basically all can basically have their physical status and each and every medical status, everything basically is normal. So they can basically have the child also basically. Then he told that yes, basically if the person basically don't, he basically some medical data basically got wrong basically. Some wrong basically thing basically happen in his body parts basically. Then basically what he will do basically? Then time basically this is going to create problem basically for that particular blood group only basically, not to entire blood group, but effect will happen to the entire blood group basically, because his blood, his next generation is stopped basically. So that is going to affect to entire 22 blood groups one day, and that is going to affect to this lava data also basically, because his production, his birth basically has stopped basically. So it's going to affect to this also basically. That is the next one creation basically. For example, one new blood group basically came, and in this basically this creation basically started, then this creation is going to affect basically, and this creation which is already created, existing creation and new maintenance here basically, that is also 100% going to affect. Why? Because that person basically is not going to have next birth basically. That is actually blood cells owner basically. Blood cells owner means he basically is owner of the one of the planet basically in universe basically. Somebody has allocated the ownership basically, and this ownership basically keeps on changing basically. It's like that basically, and that basically depends upon the universe group basically, how they allocate the ownership and how they basically takes the ownership also basically. So like this basically things are basically connected. So you can just imagine basically the lava holes basically. So you can just imagine basically the lava holes basically. So one of the person told that basically future creation basically, that is the birth is not going to stop. So if birth is not going to stop, then basically this all creation basically is 100% not going to stop basically. This creation is not going to stop. This creation is also not going to stop. This is also not going to stop. So nothing is, earthquake is also not going to stop. So nothing is going to stop basically. Reason? Next generation is ongoing basically. That's why basically. So next generation is basically ongoing. That means the earthquakes, nothing basically is going to stop basically. So currently basically just we will see the what is the status of the earthquakes basically. See basically Italy, Turkey. So in next video basically we are going to see a little bit more about this basically, that is the lava blast, radio button, check boxes, nuclear energy, blood cells, earthquakes connected, each and everything basically.